Hello students, good morning. In our current essay, Machines and Emotions, so far we have read that in our very first lecture that Bertrand Russell has raised a very pertinent question, and the question was this: that will machines destroy emotions or will emotions destroy machines? So this is a very basic question as per the subject matter of this question is concerned, machines and emotions. Now why that question is important? He has raised this question in view of the novel by Bertrand Russell, Erewhon, in which he has raised this question that are we lacking emotions with the increase of machines? So let's go ahead and read what he has to say in this regard. He says that at first sight, it is not obvious why there should be any opposition between machines and emotions. He said that if we look at the things at a superficial level, means on the surface level, if we see this thing, then we just find ourselves unable to understand that why should there be a kind of opposition between machines and emotions, because both these two things, they are not similar, they don't have any connection with each other, they are just different things. So why should there be any opposition between these two things, machines and emotions? Machines are something different, emotions are something different. So he says that at first sight, on the superficial level, on the surface level, we don't find any kind of opposition there in these two things, machines or emotions, because they are just two different things, they don't have any connection with them on the surface level. Every normal boy loves machines. The bigger and more powerful they are, the more he loves them. He says, as far as the boys are concerned, the males are concerned, they love machines. He says that why there is any kind of opposition between machines and emotions. So he is just trying to elaborate that thing, that why a kind of connection should be find out, why there should be a connection, why they should be in opposition to each other. So he says that every normal boy, he loves machinery, and the bigger and more powerful they are, the more powerful the machine, the more big the machine, the more is the love of that boy for that machine. So he says that this is a general thing, that every normal boy loves machines, and the more powerful, the more big they are, the more is the love of that boy for them. Nations which have a long tradition of artistic excellence, like the Japanese, are captivated by Western mechanical methods as soon as they come across them, and long only to imitate us as quickly as possible. Now, because this essay was written in those days, in the 19th century, so he talks about that period. He says that nations which have a very long tradition of artistic excellence, like the Japanese, in Japan, we have had those monks and those cultural rich traditions, but still he says that these nations which are very rich in artistic excellences, even they are captivated by Western mechanical methods as soon as they came into contact with those mechanical methods. And afterwards, when they came into the contact of these mechanical methods or these machineries or these industrial things, they longed, they desired only to imitate us as quickly as possible. And as soon as they came into contact with these machines, with these industrial revolution, with these mechanical things, they just forgot, or we can say that they just desired to follow or imitate our mechanical thing instead of those rich artistic heredity of theirs. Nothing annoys an educated and travelled Asiatic so much as to hear praise of the wisdom of the East or the traditional virtues of Asiatic civilization. Now he says, means a very contradictory thing. He says that we, the Asians, like the Japanese, Chinese, Indian, and means all these countries, we have a very rich artistic excellences in the field of art. We are much excellent. We are much more richer than the Western countries. But he says that the ironical thing is that an educated and much traveled Asiatic person, he gets annoyed very much whenever he hears about the wisdom of East. And you might have heard that name, that once we Indians or our country was called the golden sparrow, सोने की चिड़िया हमारा देश कहलाता था. We were the विश्व गुरु, है ना. So in what way we were? In our artistic excellences, in our knowledge, हमारा जो ज्ञान था, हमारी जो wisdom थी, हमारी जो कला के क्षेत्र में जो हमारा एक्सीलेंस था, उसकी वजह से हमें विश्व गुरु या हमें जो सोने की चिड़िया या जो पहचान थी वो एक मिली हुई थी. बट ही सेज दैट इट इज क्वाइट आयरनिकल, इट इज क्वाइट अ वेरी मच कॉन्ट्राडिक्टरी थिंग, दैट द थिंग ऑन विच वी शुड बी प्राउड, है ना, ये जो चीज है कि हम आर्टिस्टिकली एक्सीलेंट हैं, हमारी एक रिच हेरिडिटरी है, हम कलाओं के क्षेत्र में बहुत रिच पोजेशंस रखते हैं, इस चीज पे हमें गर्व होना चाहिए, हमें प्राउड फील करना चाहिए. बट इंस्टेड ऑफ डूइंग दैट, what annoys a learned Asiatic person is this, that when someone praises the wisdom of the East or the traditional virtues of the Asiatic civilization, this gives him annoyance, this gives him trouble. He don't want to listen to these things. Why? Because we are more attracted towards the machineries, we are more attracted towards these industrial innovations, inventions. He feels as a boy would feel who was told to play with dolls instead of toy automobiles. And he says that learned Asiatic, that traveled Asiatic, he feels that much annoyed, he feels that much unhappy with this comparison of Eastern wisdom as a boy feels when he is told to play with a doll instead of a toy automobile. है ना, जैसे हम घर में यू माइट ट्राइड दिस थिंग कि एक जो खिलौना है जो रिमोट से चलता है, जो बैटरी से चलता है, और किसी बच्चे को उसकी बजाय अगर आप एक डोल दो, कपड़े की बनी वो गुड़िया दो, वो जो कठपुतलियाँ दो, जो हमारी आर्टिस्टिक एक्सीलेंस हैं, जो हमारे होममेड जो टॉयज हैं, तो वो जो बच्चा है वो नाराज होएगा ऑब्वियसली अगर आप उसे एक गुड़िया खेलने को दोगे इंस्टेड ऑफ दैट टॉय ऑटोमोबाइल, दैट रिमोट gun or that remote car. So that same thing is being felt by that learned Asiatic also whenever he is being told or being praised about the wisdom of the Asian countries or the East. And like a boy, he would prefer a real automobile to a toy one. And again, as we have seen in our household also, that a boy, he prefers a toy automobile to a doll. अगर हम उसको एक डोल देते हैं तो उसकी बजाय वो क्या प्रेफर करेगा कि उसको एक टॉय ऑटोमोबाइल दिया जाए, एक मैकेनाइज्ड टॉय दिया जाए, एंड देन फ्रॉम दैट टॉय ही प्रेफर्स ए रियल ऑटोमोबाइल. और उस टॉय की बजाय वो अगर उसे हम रियल ऑटोमोबाइल देते हैं, यानी हम उसे एक साइकिल देते हैं, अगर हम उसे एक ऐसी बैटरी से चलने वाली जो आजकल टॉय बाइक्स आ रही हैं, टॉय कार आ रही हैं, वो अगर हम देते हैं तो ही फील्स मोर हैप्पी, नॉट रियलाइजिंग दैट इट मे रन ओवर हिम. एंड दिस इज व्हाट द writer is trying to say, this is what the essayist is trying to say, that this is the trouble with the industrial things, that they seem so captivating, they attract us too much that we just start following that, we just try to own them, not realizing that they may cause us harm. The boy, he certainly likes to have a real automobile instead of a toy mobile, without knowing that that real automobile may run over him and it may take his life also. So this is what the writer is objecting to. This is what the issue with the essayist. He says, now in the West when machinery was new, there was the same delight in it, except on the part of a few poets and aesthetes. So he says that earlier, when it was, we can say that about the beginning of the industrial revolution in the West. So he says earlier, when it was the just beginning of the industrial revolution and the people just started having these automobiles or these machines, then we, the Westerns, also used to feel the same delight as the Asiatic or as a boy feels it now, except on the part of a few poets and aesthetes. Only very small amount of people, like the poets or like the aesthetes. Aesthetes are those people who love the beauty of nature, who speaks of the beautiful things in nature, who speaks of the beautiful things in human nature, in mother nature. The 19th century considered itself superior to its predecessors chiefly because of its mechanical progress. And he says that earlier the things were not same, है ना. अगर आप हिस्ट्री पढ़ते हो, है ना, तो आप पढ़ोगे कि अकबर महान क्यों थे, आप पढ़ोगे कि कौन से राजा ने कवियों को कितना संरक्षण दिया, उनके समय में स्थापत्य कला को विकास मिला, उनके समय में संगीत को विकास मिला, उनके समय में कवियों को राज प्रश्रय मिलता था. सो दीज वर द थिंग्स ऑफ प्राइड इन अर्लियर डेज. अर्लियर जो समय था, पुराना जो समय था, उस समय इन चीज़ों के बारे में प्राउड फील होता था. बट इन द 19th century it had shifted to the mechanical progress. And the 19th century, because it doesn't have any artistic excellence, so the only thing on which they feel proud, on which they felt themselves superior to its predecessors, was the mechanical progress only, the industrial progress only, the progress in machines only. Peacock, Thomas Love Peacock, a poet, in its early year makes fun of the steam intellect society. Steam intellect society, steam, भाप का इंजन जो सबसे पहले, that was the first major invention of the industrial revolution. So वो करा that वो जो people थे जो उन machines से प्रभावित थे, जो उनकी तरह से सोचते थे, उनका जो intellect था, उनकी जो बुद्धि थी, उनके लिए टॉमस लव पिकॉक ने एक टर्म यूज किया था, स्टीम इंटेलेक्ट सोसाइटी. वो जो भाप के इंजन की तरह से सोचने वाली जो सोसाइटी है, उसकी तरह से जो चलने वाली सोसाइटी. दिस इज व्हाट ही मींस. दीज वर्ड्स ही गिव्स एग्जांपल ऑफ सम ऑफ द पीपल who have reacted against this mechanization, against this machinery, because he is a literary man to whom the Greek and Latin authors represent civilization. And why Peacock has used this term, why he has opposed these machineries, because he was an intellectual, he was a literary man, and to him the Latin and the Greek civilization was much more important than these machines. But he is conscious of being out of touch with the prevailing tendencies of his time. But whatever is happening in his times, means this mechanization, this love for machinery, it was something which he not likes, and he feels himself out of touch, out of tradition, out of fashion of his own times. Rousseau's disciples with the return to nature. Again, this slogan, return to nature, was given by Rousseau. So they have also in opposition to this mechanical revolution. The Lake poets with the medievalism, and the Lake poets, William Wordsworth, Coleridge, these were some of the poets who were known as Lake poets. They used to sit by the bank of the silent lakes and they write poetry there. So means they nature poets also they were called. They used to write in praise of nature only. William Morris with his News from Nowhere, and this again a novel, William Morris, A Country Where It Is Always June and Everybody is Engaged in Haymaking. He has written this novel, News from Nowhere, with this subtitle, A Country Where It Is Always June and Everybody is Engaged in Haymaking. Now what does it mean? That it is always the ripening time of the crops and everybody is busy in haymaking, everybody is busy in profit making. This is the reality of the industrialization. This is the reality of modern day society. these all represent a purely sentimental and essentially reactionary opposition to machinery. All these people, they all represent a kind of purely sentimental and essentially reaction against the machinery, because they all are intellectuals, they all are literary turn of people. Samuel Butler was the first man, Arabon, we have talked about in our first lecture. He was the first man to apprehend intellectually the non-sentimental case against machines. But Samuel Butler, he has talked this case in an intellectual manner, not on the emotional basis only, but in him it may have been no more than a jus d'esprit. Certainly it was not a deeply held conviction, but even it was just the witticism in Samuel Butler. He also doesn't have a very deep conviction of opposition to these machinery. Since his day, numbers of people in the most mechanized nations have been tending to adopt in earnest a view similar to that of the Arabonians. But he says, as he has started it, as he has given vent to a new thought, to a new idea, so people even in the most mechanized countries started to following the views of the Arabonians. This view, that is to say, has been latent or explicit in the attitude of many rebels against existing industrial methods. And he says that this attitude or this tendency of Arabonians has been explicit, it has been very clear and very easily discernible in the views, in the ideas, in the attitudes of many of the rebels of existing industrial methods. There are many rebels, there are many peoples who are in opposition to the industrial methods of the present day society. So those rebels, those peoples, they have been in league with the Arabonians. They have all adopted the ideas being written by Samuel Butler, or being caricatured, being presented by him in his novel Arabon. So this is it. We will go further and find out what he has to say in our next lecture. Thank you.